This is just so misleading. It's hard to know where to begin. Hi, welcome to the video, and today we are going to go over this article, why General Motors is crushing Tesla in 2021 and why it's so inaccurate. And this would be just another classic example of media bias, but there are a couple of points that differentiate it from some other examples of media bias. Number one, Travis Hohem. What I do like about Motley, even though sometimes it gives very biased articles like this, is that we know the positions. So right here, always examine this. Travis Hohem owns shares of Apple, Ford, and General Motors and has the following options. Long March 2023 $250 puts on Tesla. That means Travis is betting that on March 2023, Tesla is going to be under $250 per share. This is not pre-split adjusted Tesla. This is current Tesla right now that's hovering around $600. He's betting that Tesla is going to be worth almost 200% less than it is worth now at $250 a share. So he is incentivized to push out FUD, to bring out the share price down. And what makes this even crazier, because usually when I see plays that are betting against Tesla, these analysts are ranked very, very poorly. But Travis, we'll look at him right here. He's actually has a 5-star review on TipRanks with an average return of 14.3%, ranked 127 out of 8,062 bloggers. So this guy is actually very smart and very successful. And this doesn't mean I agree with what he's saying. This is just a great example of even super smart, successful investors will have blind spots or they will have agendas. So we'll read through this, and I want to be as transparent as possible. This dude is smart, but when you read this article, there are points that are just deliberately very, very misleading. And at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide who you believe. And I'm going to try my best to just explain why I think this is so inaccurate and unfair. Without further ado, let's read this article. Tesla has been the talk of the auto and EV stocks for most of the last decade, and for good reason. The company has come to define electric vehicles and has done more to disrupt the auto industry than any company in a century. So far, so good, very fair. But this year, it's General Motors that investors are pushing higher over Tesla. You can see that GM stock is up 46% in 2021, while Tesla stock is down 13%. Here we can see a little bit of the bias with agenda, start to leak out. He's just talking about investors pushing it higher, which is totally fair. But again, we have to remember that stock price does not equal the company. And if you look at Tesla over the past, let's say, half a year, its growth has already been astronomical. So just by choosing this year, you're already cherry picking exactly the time scale of what the growth is. And yes, it's true, recently GM has gone up a lot, but this is also because GM has been depressed. It's been a very, very low stock for a very, very long time. But let's continue. 6 month doesn't make a trend. Again, Travis, a very smart guy. He's preemptively pointing out some issues you might have with how he's analyzing the stock. But this is a notable performance from GM and may show the market starting to value the products GM has been developing for years. It could also be argued that Tesla stock has become overvalued, but valuation has never held Tesla back before. So how could an old Detroit-based company be Elon Musk and Tesla if the world is moving toward EVs and autonomous vehicles? GM's shift to EV and its investments in autonomy may be driving the stock performance in 2021, and given recent announcements from GM, I think the outperformance could continue for years. Actually, so far, this paragraph, I don't really have a problem with. Some people think Tesla could be overvalued, and he's asking the right questions. How is it possible that GM, this very old dinosaur of a company, could actually be Elon Musk? Tesla's EV lead is shrinking. A few years ago, Tesla had a huge lead over the competition in electric vehicles. Manufacturers were still making vehicles with ranges of 50 to 100 miles, even as Tesla was passing 300 miles of range with some models. It seemed automakers would never catch up. Today, the competition is much more compelling for EV buyers, depending on what you value. Tesla may not be the best EV option. So here we have these range of vehicles, and he brings up a good point. Depending on what you value, you might have different preferences. And he's trying to say that if we look at the price, if we look at the range, on paper, it seems like Tesla has competition. You could get the Chevy Bolt with a little bit less range and it's cheaper, you could also get the VW with comparable range, still a little bit less range at a similar price, or even the Ford Mustang Mach-E for just a couple $1,000s more at 305 miles. If you were to just look at this piece of paper, you would think that, okay, it seems like they're competitive, but what this paper doesn't show is the advantages Tesla currently has regarding manufacturing and also battery. Tesla's more advanced options all have ranges of over 300 miles, and those premium models have the competitors beat by a long shot. And Tesla has their new 4680 batteries coming out that are going to be far, far more efficient than their current batteries, which is going to further push their advantage. Another thing to note is that the competitors are pumping out prices that seem competitive to us, the consumer, but when we look behind the hood into exactly what their profit margins are, Tesla is able to build their cars for far cheaper than its competitors because their whole company is vertically integrated, and in their whole lifespan, all they've done and all they've ever worked on are EV cars. So right now, even though Chevy Bolt or VW ID4 are able to come out with cars that are comparable in price on paper, they are actually far more expensive to manufacture because they still actually need to outsource a lot of different parts, and they just aren't as efficient at building electric cars than Tesla. So in the short term, they are releasing these cars to plug in the holes of a sinking ship, but it really comes down to, can they sustain this price point? Can they build these vehicles at scale on a 5-year and 10-year time scale, in which currently Tesla still has a very big advantage. Moving on, Tesla has been operating from a point of strength and differentiation in the EV market for years, but that differentiation has diminished and companies like GM are coming into market with compelling options. The Chevy Bolt was the first full EV from GM, but the Hummer EV, Cadillac, Lyriq, and the electric Silverado are on the way, and GM's shift into EVs is already eating into Tesla's lead. So another thing I want to note is that has always said competition is a good thing. And even though it seems like they are eating into somebody's lead or whatnot, EV is still such a tiny, tiny portion of total auto sales. There's so much pie for everybody to eat right now. It's kind of inaccurate to say one person is eating into someone's lead or not, just because there's so much market left untapped. And here is where things get super ridiculous and very, very misleading. Tesla is way behind in autonomous driving, and GM is taking the lead. Even if you only had a casual or surface level understanding of what's happening, I think this would probably throw off some red flags. Autonomy is the other reason investors may see a brighter future at GM than on Tesla. On the surface, it appears that Tesla is a leader in autonomous driving. This is what the general public keeps hearing, and for good reason, because it has released some self-driving features to its vehicles with Autopilot and has collected data from millions of miles of customer driving, most of which is video and intervention data when Autopilot is active. In reality, Tesla is likely years behind competitors, in part because it's using a vision system while most competitors are using LiDAR technology in combination with vision and other sensors. Competitors like Cruise and Waymo also haven't autonomous features to the public, a typo, and may never do so in passenger vehicles. Research from firms like Navigant Research suggests that Tesla is behind Ford Alphabet's Waymo, General Motors' Cruise subsidiary, and many other companies in both technology and strategy for autonomous driving. But we don't need to look any future than what competitors have submitted to regulators and are being approved for in the autonomous market to show how far behind Tesla is. Okay, that's a lot to unpack here. So right here, they're saying that its vision system, just because they're not using the technology other people are using, they're behind. They don't even explain what this really means. Tesla believes vision is the future of autonomy. Us humans, when we drive, we don't have a LiDAR system. We don't have a radar system. Having a LiDAR system would be like having a cane to also help where you walk. Technically, sure, like if you can point and poke at things, you better more accurately know how far away something is. But all we've ever done is our eyes. So that's what Tesla's system is trying to emulate. All these other competitors use LiDAR and radar because they don't have the information nor the software maturity levels to just rely on vision. Of course, having LiDAR and radar hypothetically could give you an extra layer of safety because they can check and bounce each other. But what a lot of these other autonomy companies are essentially doing is using these as a crutch. What Waymo is doing is pre-mapping areas out so the car already knows exactly where everything is and it has the roads memorized. So you can have a very, very safe driverless experience within a fixed road. It's completely mapped out. What Tesla is going for is far more ambitious. Their intent is that you can put a Tesla car into anywhere in the world someday, and due to all of its machine AI learning that it's gathered from millions and millions of miles on the road, it will be able to decipher and recognize a stop sign and people and bicycles and know how far it is just by seeing images that it has from all the cars surrounding it. Versus a competitor like Waymo, they would need to completely and continually map out every single area in order for you to safely drive there, and that is far, far more expensive, and it's just not as feasible. And here's one of the most misleading graphs of this whole article. We see the number of autonomous miles. Now, what does this actually mean? So according to this article, they're saying autonomous miles as in there is no driver in there. So when we look at Cruise, Waymo, Zoox, Apple, and Tesla, wow, you could see that Waymo has over 1 million. In 2020, they have 600,000. In 2020, Tesla has 0 autonomous miles. Does that sound right to you? This is just so misleading. It's hard to know where to begin. Yes, Tesla has not had a lot of miles where there are no drivers, but they have had a lot of autonomous miles where there is a driver sitting there and just making sure everything is okay. These miles are not less valuable than when there is a driver there. The software is still doing the same amount of learning. It's still getting the reps in. This isn't the perfect example, but imagine going to the gym and doing push-ups by yourself, nobody's watching, or doing push-ups while a coach is watching. This author for sure knows the difference and what the ideas it's going to give to the uninformed viewer. But for the regular person that hasn't, spent hundreds of hours researching into Tesla, into all the different types of ways autonomy can be achieved, you might think that Tesla is way, way, way behind. And that is just not true. Tesla has begun to admit publicly that its autopilot feature is a driver assist system, not anywhere near a fully autonomous driving system. I think they could do a better job of educating the regular consumer, but the reality is it's on us, the consumer, to understand the products that we're driving. Any person that knows anything about Tesla knows that there is an autopilot feature. That means that there are some autopilot functions, which is completely separate from their full self-driving package. On their website, they've continuously and repeatedly told us that full self-driving will be available at some time during the future, but autopilot is not full self-driving. That is where a big disconnect is. These terms can be confusing, but they do have a fixed definition. There is autopilot on cars other than Tesla. It does not mean that you can just take off your hands and go to sleep. That is not the definition of autopilot. The lack of fully autonomous testing on public roads in its home state shows that Tesla may not have the same ambitions in autonomous driving as GM and Alphabet Waymo. This sentence right here should show you that this author definitely has an agenda, because the reason they are behind is because that they are ambitious. If they weren't as ambitious, if they truly did not want to achieve level 5 autonomy, meaning we could drop this car anywhere in the world without any prior knowledge and it could navigate its roads, it could do exactly what Waymo's doing and just add LiDAR and just add radar and map it out, and bam, you could have level 4 driving with no driver. So of course they are ambitious. It's the reason that they're so ambitious is that they're currently behind. They know what's important. They don't want to just show off what it could do in the short term. They are going for all the marbles. They are going for level 5 autonomy, true full self-driving, not just running around a fixed racetrack, which is essentially what a lot of these other competitors are doing. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about. But let me know what you think. Is this article biased or not? Does Travis have an actual point? Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. This is Green Knight Trading, where squires become knights. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate you, and I'll see you soon.